Something that's been holding the Pokemon franchise back for a long time, with many people voicing their concerns, is the lack of difficulty inside of Pokemon games. However, Pokemon Legends Arceus has given us a small little glimpse of a possible future that we get with one of the hardest battles ever made in a franchise against Volo. We're going to take a look today at how you can beat Volo and the fight that comes right after it. And if you do not want to see spoilers, then I suggest you go ahead and click off now. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get to the video. Cynthia versus Volo. Why Cynthia versus Volo? Well, Cynthia and Volo have the same exact team with one minor difference, and probably Cynthia is the descendant of Volo. So Volo is one of the ancestors to Cynthia, which is why they've got that similar hair. They've got pretty much the same team and pretty much the same movesets as well for those Pokemon. So let's take a look here. It's Togekiss, Roserade, Spiritomb, Lucario, and Garchomp are the Pokemon that they share together. The difference is Cynthia uses the Mono Water type Melodic, whereas Volo is going to use the Hisuian Fire Rock type Arcanine. So that is the one difference that you have there, and that's only from what my guess is that Melodic isn't in the game, and that's why they substituted the Arcanine instead. Which honestly is a super cool Pokemon in and of itself. However, this is a team that can cause you to have some very big issues. So how are you going to beat these different Pokemon and then go and fight two different Giratinas right after the altered and the origin forms, right after you fight these six with no pause for healing, no time to recoup? You literally have to go from battle to battle and just try to win against all 8, I'm doing air quotations, 8 Pokemon here. So what do? Let's go ahead and start breaking down some of these Pokemon and seeing what we need to do to beat them and what some good counters are to put into your team. You've got your team together, you know the weaknesses, resistances, and so on and so forth, and you're ready to go. But before we head on in, let's take a look at the pre-fight prep list real quick, because there are some other things you want to attend to before you jump into your battle with Volo. The first and foremost is going to be to make sure that your team is leveled up, because Volo isn't a low-level fight. This is going to be late 60s for his levels. I think it's level 68. So you want to make sure that your team is going to be at the appropriate levels to fight him. If you go in with 40s or level 50 Pokemon, you're going to have a really tough time with this fight, and you're going to be burning through items really fast, and you might not even win. So you want to definitely make sure that your team is somewhere between level 65 and 75. You may be able to get away with some low 60s. I think I've got a 63 and a 64 in the video, but definitely make sure you have some Pokemon in that range. So how to level up? Well, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. Okay, the first way you can level up, what I can tell is one of the best ways, and there's guides out there, guys, for grinding experience. Maybe you want to go look some of those up. But if you go to the training area in Jubilife City, there is the woman at the very top next to the ring who does all your mastery moves and can teach you new moves. She's basically the move tutor. To the left of her is Ingo, and if you talk to Ingo, you can actually choose to fight some of the trainers in the city. If you choose more options, Ingo is now on one of the options. If you're at this point in the game, choose to fight him, and you're going to get a net reward somewhere between 10 and 15 or 16,000 experience per Pokemon, depending on level and Pokemon. So this is a really good way to grind some experience really, really fast. However, just make sure you have some Pokemon that are leveled up enough to do it, because he's also going to be in that mid 60 range for his level Pokemon. So make sure that you have some strong Pokemon in there to help kind of carry your weaker ones that need to be leveled up. So if you don't have anything that's in the 60s or late 50s, then maybe throw in some of the legendaries you've caught, Dialga Palkia, etc., etc. They're going to be high enough level that they should help carry the team a little bit there. So that is one way that you can definitely grind a really good amount of experience really fast. I mean, within an hour or two, really just an hour, actually, even a half hour, you can gain a ton of levels and a ton of experience from Ingo. It's a crazy amount of experience that you get. Another method to leveling up is something that I like to do in the final area, the snow area there. I like to go just right over the cliff at the starting coming in point. There's a bunch of Glallies that spawn, and there's an Alpha Glally, Alpha Abomasnow. Just down the way, there's an Alpha Mamoswine. I like to just farm these Glallies. They give you somewhere between like 800 and 1500 experience, depending on the level of the Pokemon and whatnot. So it's really quick, easy experience, especially if you're just hitting them with super effective attacks. I usually just go in with something with fire and just kind of melt them real fast. But you can also farm those alphas, which not only give you more experience, also you could look for a shiny while you're doing it, but they also drop grit and experience candies. Candies you can obviously use to boost your levels while you're doing this, but also the grit is going to help you raise the stats of your Pokemon so that you don't have to go in with less than optimal stats on your Pokemon for this final battle. So this is a nice little area where you can kind of fight stuff, get experience, get the items you need, shiny hunt. You get to do a bunch of things at the same time while you're grinding experience instead of just sitting there at Ingo over and over and over again in a mundane kind of boring way, which is highly effective but can be very boring and mentally exhausting. So this is a way that you kind of get to do a bunch of things. You get to move around. It's a little bit more dynamic. Okay, so you're the right levels. What do you need to do now? Well, you need to make sure that you've got some stats on your Pokemon, especially your bulk Pokemon and your big offensive hitters. So just something like your Togekiss, you definitely want to make sure you're raising with grit. Honestly, I put it into every stat with the exception of the physical attack stat for my bulk Pokemon here, Togekiss. I just put it all in. I maxed it out, put it to 10s, and I did the same thing with, well, pretty much all my Pokemon. I got a crazy amount of grit. But if you don't have a lot of grit, then maybe you want to go farm some alphas, do some quests, whatever you need to do to get some of those grit. If you got a lot of the level 1 grit, you can exchange those with the move tutor lady up at that training school area. You can exchange it. Now, it's a bad exchange rate, but you can exchange it for the next level grit. And then you can do that with the next level to the next level and so on and so forth to the final. Again, it's a pretty bad ratio for exchange, but if you have a ton of them, like I think I have like 500 of the stage 1 grit, then there's no reason not to at that point, because are you going to raise every Pokemon in the game? Maybe you are. Maybe you're that kind of completionist, but I'm not that crazy, so I'm going to go ahead and exchange mine. That is definitely a way that you can go ahead and get some more grit, but you want to put that grit into your Pokemon to make them as strong as possible to help you have the easiest time during this fight. Next on the list is stocking up on your items. Make sure you have meds, revives, potions. If you want to create some of those ox things to boost your stats in the battle, go ahead and do that. I didn't personally use any of those. In fact, I haven't really used any of those all game, haven't needed to, but I don't usually use the X attacks or anything in any game. So that's completely on you, but make sure you have your revives and potions. If you've got max revives and max potions and full restores, and if you have those items, this is the battle to use them. This is the time. Do not be stingy. I am a very stingy player with my items. I like to hoard my items, but in this game with the crafting, I've been able to let loose a little bit more. So if you have the ability to make revives and potions, if you have the ability to buy the revives and potions, if you've upgraded your store and you have some better versions of things, buy those items and have them stocked up so that you are ready to go, because after you fight Volo, you got to fight Giratina, right? So make sure that you are set to go for the Giratina battles. All right, so now that we've got our items, grit, we've got leveled up Pokemon, what do we need to do now? Now we need to look at the move sets for the Pokemon. So make sure you go into your inventory, go to change moves for your Pokemon, and go through your move list and see which moves it is that you're going to want to use. Make sure you're putting on as many super effective attacks as you can for coverage, and so on and so forth, just like we talked about with the Pokemon earlier. And keep in mind, some of these Pokemon have really awesome attacks, like the Braviary has Esper Wing here, so make sure you're looking at their kind of unique attacks. But after you do that, you're going to want to go to the move tutor and look at the moves that she has available to teach your Pokemon, because each one's going to be a little bit different, and you're going to want to build up some of your coverage moves from there as well. So I know, like Togekiss, for example, gets the flamethrower attack from her, so make sure you go in there and buy whichever moves that you want for your Pokemon for the Volo and Giratina battles so that you are stocked up and ready to go. Hey everyone, if the video is helping you out and you like it, please drop a like and subscribe. It will help the video with the algorithm, but also help the channel out, and I will certainly appreciate it. Put a comment down below as well if you have any questions, and we will get back to it. Otherwise, if you're looking for a place to see some Pokemon action, come check us out on Twitch and YouTube, where we live stream once or twice a week. Otherwise, let's get back to the video. At the start of the battle, Volo is going to send out Spiritomb. Spiritomb is going to be his #1 Pokemon that he sends out every time. This will not change, and what that means is you should have something with a Fairy-type attack or a Fairy-type Pokemon with a Fairy-type attack. That is going to be the best case scenario for you. So we're going to look at some of the weaknesses, immunities, and resistances for this Pokemon, and then the top 1 and 2 picks and some alternatives that you could get to fight this Pokemon as well. So with Spiritomb, it is a Ghost Dark type Pokemon, which is a good typing here, so you got to be careful with it. It is going to be weak to that Fairy typing, like I said, and it is going to have 3 immunities, so you're not going to be able to hurt it with normal attacks, fighting attacks, or psychic attacks. So all 3 of those are going to be null and void. You will not do any damage with those, so just keep that in mind. And it is resistant to poison type attacks as well. The Fairy type weakness is just a 2x weakness. It is not going to be a 4x, so don't expect it to do stupid crazy amounts of damage. However, this isn't the hardest Pokemon in the world to one-shot with a Fairy type attack. You can do a crazy amount of damage just out of the gate with 1 Moonblast from specific Pokemon. So just keep that in mind. Fairy typing is the way to go for them. Next up is going to be the moveset for Spiritomb, so you can know what to look out for. Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, Extra Sensory, and Hypnosis. Shadow Ball, Ghost typing, Dark Pulse, Dark typing. Extra Sensory is a Psychic type, and then Hypnosis obviously puts you to sleep. So just beware of that sleep, because that can be super annoying. However, a little less annoying than it is, I think, in my opinion, than in the main series games. Just be careful of the other offensive attacks that it has. Okay, Gardevoir is going to be my secondary choice here. If you don't have a Togekiss and you don't have a Gardevoir or another Fairy type attacker that you want to use, you can catch a Gardevoir easily. I know exactly where that is. Top right of the map of the final area, the snow area there, the northeast of that map, there's actually an area you can go to that has an Alpha Gardevoir that spawns, so you should be able to catch it at a pretty decent level, and it's a good Fairy type attacker. It's going to have here Moonblast, Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Ice Beam. Moonblast obviously going to be our Fairy type stab attack here. Psychic is our secondary stab bonus. Don't really need it for Spiritomb, but for whatever else you want to use it for. Shadow Ball, some more coverage. Now, Ice Beam is really, even Shadow Ball is really the kind of kicker here, because these are things that the Giratina are going to be weak against. And so you're essentially going to be fighting 8 Pokemon. You've got the 6 Pokemon that you're going to fight with Volo, and then you've got 2 back-to-back Giratina fights. So you want to be prepared as much as possible. You're going to see me putting as many super effective coverage moves against Giratina on as many of these Pokemon as I possibly can. Now, with this build, if you know what you're going against and you're prepared and you have the Pokemon ready, you pretty much should have most of your Pokemon alive by the end of it. But you still want to have as many things that can do as much damage or DPS to the Giratina as possible, so you can just kind of nuke those battles out of existence. All right, a couple of alternates for you here, Sylveon and Enamorus. Obviously, these are both going to be really pretty solid Fairy type attackers. Enamorus is actually the #1, in my opinion, to take out the Spiritomb. It does a good amount of damage. It's got good speed. It's just a good overall legendary for you. But not many people are going to have access to an Enamorus for this fight. But if you already have it, this is probably the one I would say just shoot and go for it. If you're like me and you don't want to use legendaries to complete any of the story, then definitely go with the Togekiss or the Gardevoir. But Sylveon is also a very accessible Pokemon to get. You can get it in Distortions. You obviously can get Eevee and just evolve it to the Sylveon very easily just by friending it up. So those are 2 Pokemon that you can definitely use to defeat the Spiritomb. And we're going to look at one of the coolest Pokemon in the game, the Hisuian Arcanine that Volo is going to use. So this is going to be a Rock-Fire type Pokemon here. The weaknesses are going to be Ground and Water, and that's going to be a 4x weakness. So that's kind of where you want to focus on here. And it is still going to be weak to Fighting and Rock with the 2x. It will have 0 immunities. However, it will have a 1/4 or 75% resistance to fire attacks, and then also have regular resistance to normal, flying, poison, bug, ice, and fairy at 50% reduction. So know what you're sending in, but water and ground kind of where you're going to be floating here for this Pokemon. Now, looking at its moveset, it is going to have Rock Slide, Raging Fury, Crunch, and a 4th move that I cannot find. If you know what the 4th move is for Arcanine, put it down in the comments, and I will pin that to the comment section so everybody can know for the future, but I have no idea what it is. Now, its stab bonus moves are going to be Rock Slide and Raging Fury. Those are going to do crazy amounts of damage if you send out the wrong Pokemon, so just keep that in mind. Otherwise, this is a Pokemon you want to deal with very, very quickly, so let's look at its counters. The biggest counters, the top 2 that I'm going to pick here for Arcanine, are going to be Gyarados and Basculegion. Now, Gyarados is the #1 with Aqua Tail. It's going to do a crazy amount of damage to the Arcanine, and if it's at the right level, you're going to one-shot it pretty much very easily. The other moves for the Gyarados, Outrage, Ice Fang, and Bulldoze, that will give you good coverage for the rest of Volo's team, as well as the Giratinas coming up. Now, Basculegion is the one that I picked here, so this is the one that I use. I really, really like the Basculegion, but I did put it as number 2 behind the Gyarados. Aqua Tail is going to do a stupid amount of damage to the Arcanine and really kind of make your day. Ice Fang going to give you that extra coverage with Zen Headbutt, but then also rest so we can get a good recovery on the pretty decent bulk that Basculegion has. Okay, so if you don't have a Gyarados or Basculegion, then hopefully you have a Samurott or the Palkia. Well, you should have the Palkia by now, but if you have Samurott, maybe that was your starter, or you got it in a Space Distortion, this is a very, very good Pokemon to use as well. So if you're doing the no legend thing, then go with the Samurott here and throw him in, and that will do great against the Arcanine. Honestly, it's pretty much tied with the 1 and 2 anyways, so you can't really go wrong with it. So just throw the Samurott in and you'll be good to go. On to the beefy boy. We got Togekiss now. Very flying type. This is obviously something that can definitely hurt you. So just be careful when dealing with the Togekiss. Its weaknesses are going to be poison, rock, steel, electric, and ice types. So any of those are going to be super effective to the Togekiss. It is going to be immune to ground and dragon typings, and it is going to resist fighting and bug type with only 25% damage being taken, and grass and dark with 50% damage being taken. So just keep that in mind, the resistances and the immunities. The moveset for the Togekiss is going to be Calm Mind, Moonblast, Extrasensory, and Air Slash. So Moonblast and Air Slash, those are going to be the stab bonus moves, the ones that are going to be doing extra damage when the Togekiss attacks you. Calm Mind is going to be its setup move, so just keep that in mind. If it's using that, its bulk is going to go up more, and its attack is also going to go up more. So it becomes even more of a threat than this thing already is. And then Extrasensory is just a little bit of a psychic coverage, so just be careful with what you're sending out, so you're not sending out something that's basically going to just be put to its death. So just keep that in mind too. So some Pokemon that you can use against the Togekiss. I was a big fan of the Overqwil here. Overqwil did a really good job for me. I was using Bar Barrage, but you could also use Poison Jab, whichever one is going to kind of fit your play style a little bit more, but I did really enjoy using the Bar Barrage. Spikes is a move that I really like on Overqwil, even though it's not crazy heavy hitting. It does that extra chip damage every turn, so I really like Spikes. Now, it's not going to be able to hit the Togekiss, because that is going to be a ground move, but it's something that I like to have on here. You could totally replace that with something else from the Move Tutor or whatever. Giga Impact, because the Overqwil has a nice physical attack stat, so Giga Impact does a crazy amount of damage. Now, for the Togekiss, you're going to want to just stick to the Bar Barrage or the Poison Jab for the super effective. And then Overqwil, I put on Rest here because it does have a little bit of bulk, and Rest is going to be able to keep it in the battle a little bit longer, recover your HP up, and so on. The next Pokemon is going to be Kleavor. Now, Kleavor is really cool. Stone Axe does a ton of damage and can really, really affect that Togekiss and or just one-shot it, depending on what your level is and what your stats are at. So Stone Axe is amazing. It is that special move for Kleavor. X-Scissors also really good, but not necessarily against the Togekiss, just in general. Both Stone Axe and X-Scissor are going to be the stab bonus moves for Kleavor. Close Combat and Psycho Cut will give you a little bit more coverage. There are some other moves you could totally put on Kleavor, but I liked having the coverage that we have on the screen here. Now, if you don't have either of those Pokemon, some alternates for you are Dialga and Goodra. Now, Goodra is a good one because you can actually catch an Alpha Goodra in the Highlands. You can go and catch it. You can see it on the map there, and you won't have to worry about evolving things or leveling it up as much, and so on and so forth. Alrighty, so next on the list is Garchomp, and Garchomp is an amazing Pokemon. So this is definitely a threat on the field that you want to nullify as fast as you can. It's going to be Dragon and Ground typing, which means it has a 4 times weakness to Ice. So Ice is the way to go with this Pokemon. Bring either an Ice type or bring a Pokemon with Ice type moves. You'll see in the video, I use a female Basculin using a physical attack, even though it's a special attacker, using Ice Fang, and it one-shots this Garchomp. So it is super weak to ice attacks, so bring something with ice. It's also going to be 2x weak to Dragon and Fairy typing, but you definitely want to take advantage of that ice weakness there. Now, as far as immunities, it is going to have an immunity to the electric typing, and it is going to have resistances, 50% resistance to poison, rock, and fire, so just keep that in mind when you are addressing this threat on the field. For moveset, Garchomp is going to have Dragon Claw, Earth Power. Those are going to be the stab moves for it. It's Slash and Iron Head. So if you are bringing a fairy typing like a Togekiss, Just keep in mind it will have that Iron Head to kind of counter your typing, and that will be super effective, so just be careful of that. Otherwise, like I said, you're probably going to be able to one-shot this with a good attacker with an ice attack. All right, for the counters, Pokemon that you want to have in your team here, the first Pokemon I'm going to look at is Basculegion. We used it earlier. We can use it again, so this is definitely a solid Pokemon to keep in your team. But we're going to look at both the male and the female. Now, you could also use the male or the female in the previous Pokemon we went over. However, here it works just as good. Like I said, I used the female with physical set in the video, and that worked perfect, even though it's actually a special attacker, whereas the male is the physical attacker. So the male, just like the previous set, Aqua Tail, Ice Fang, Zen Headbutt, and Rest, and you are golden. But the female one, what you're going to want is Water Pulse, Ice Beam, Shadow Ball, and Rest. So we're actually going to have a nice Ghost-type stab move here against the Giratina later, but the Ice Beam is what's really going to just destroy this Garchomp, especially because it has a lower special defense than it does a physical defense. So the female is actually a little bit better here than the male counterpart. Okay, number 2 and number 3 Pokemon to bring to the Garchomp could be the Gardevoir or a Goodra or Discount Dialga, whatever you want to call it, but either one of these are going to be a solid Pokemon. Keep in mind the Garchomp does have counters for both of these, so the Gardevoir can be countered with the Steel-type move, and Goodra can be countered with the Ground-type moves, so just keep that in mind. However, Goodra has a crazy high special attack, Gardevoir has a good special attack, and either one of these can probably drop this Garchomp one hit, no problem, with an Ice Beam. If the physical Ice Fang can do it on a lowered attack Pokemon, then these high special attack Pokemon can definitely drop it, just depending on your level. If you're level 45, maybe not. If you're mid-60s, then you're probably good. That being said, Gardevoir's moveset is the same as earlier. Moonblast, Psychic, Shadow Ball, and Ice Beam. Goodra is going to have Steel Beam, Dragon Pulse, or Draco Meteor, whichever one you prefer. You do get that stat loss with the Draco Meteor, but you do a crazy amount of damage in the one hit. And then we're going to have Flamethrower for some coverage, and Ice Beam, which is the reason why it's in here in the Garchomp in the first place. Alright, so again, if you are doing this without Legends, here's another recommendation with the Gyarados. If you are doing this with the Legends and you do have access to them, then Palkia and Enamorus would also be super, super good for the Garchomp here. Last but not least, we have Roserade. Now, Roserade is going to be a grass poison-type Pokemon, and while it may or may not be the weakest Pokemon on Volo's team, it can still hurt you. So let's take a look at what it's got. Weaknesses, it's going to be weak to Flying, Fire, Psychic, and Ice attacks. It will have 0 immunities, but it will have a 1/4 or 75% resistant to grass attacks. Fighting, Water, Electric, and Fairy typings will also have a 50% resistance. So just keep in mind that with what Pokemon you're sending out. Now, as far as its moveset, it will have Poison Jab, Petal Dance, Spikes, and then a 4th move that I can't for the life of me figure out. So if you know what it is, put it down in the comments so I can add it into the pinned comment or something. But those are the attacks that it has. Poison Jab and Petal Dance are going to be its stab bonuses. Beware, those are going to do really good damage depending on what Pokemon you have sent out. Now, some counters to the Roserade. We've got Arcanine and Infernape. The Hisuian Arcanine is going to be great here. It's pretty much, if you're like mid-60s, you're probably going to one-shot the Roserade with no issue if you're using either one of these Pokemon. Flare Blitz or Raging Fury. Again, I like Flare Blitz on this more than Raging Fury. I don't want to get locked into one attack. Rock Slide or Stone Edge, up to you, whichever one is your personal preference. Both of those are going to have stab bonus. Same with Flare Blitz. Play Rough and Iron Head are going to be your coverage moves. And then for Infernape, we've got Close Combat, Flare Blitz, Stone Edge, and Shadow Claw. Now, the reason we got Shadow Claw in there is because of Giratina coming up. This is going to be a nice, super effective attack for that. Otherwise, we've got really good coverage on there for any situation, and either one of these Pokemon are really going to be able to take it to the Roserade really, really well. Okay, so some alternates for you. Typhlosion would definitely work for this, and Heatran would also work if you have the Heatran. Again, if you're like me, I like doing this without the legendaries. I just use the Typhlosion, but Arcanine and Infernape, those are the number 1 and 2. Volo is going to have a fan favorite, Lucario. This is a fighting steel type Pokemon, and it is a threat, so you do want to kill this as fast as you can. It is going to have 3 weaknesses. It's going to be weak to fighting, ground, and fire types. It is going to be immune to poison because of its steel typing, and it is going to resist rock and bug moves by 1/4, so it'll only take 25% of the normal damage. And then it has a regular 50% resistance to normal, steel, grass, ice, dragon, and dark types. So it actually has a ton of resistances, plus that 1 immunity. So you definitely want to kill this thing as fast as you can with a super effective attack. Fighting, ground, or fire, those are the ways to go for this Pokemon. Alright, so Lucario is going to be boasting some pretty decent coverage here. It's going to have 2 stab bonus moves with Bullet Punch for steel and Close Combat for fighting, so be very, very careful of those, because either one of those is definitely going to hurt you, especially that Close Combat. Don't send something out that's going to be weak to fighting type, because it is going to hurt you really, really, really bad. And then it is also going to have the Dark type move Crunch as well, so just be careful of anything that's going to be weak to Dark type moves, like Ghost type or Psychic type, etc., etc. And then it is going to have Bulk Up. Now, you do not want to let this Pokemon get itself set up. Don't let it run 2 turns with Bulk Up, because it's going to start dropping your Pokemon very, very quickly. So if it uses Bulk Up, you need to kill this thing as fast as you can. Otherwise, it becomes a massive, massive threat. So my favorite Pokemon to use against this, well, the one that I really like to use against this in both times that I fought Volo, both on my account and the wife's account, was Typhlosion. Typhlosion did a great job just nullifying Lucario, basically 1 hit. So Typhlosion was a very, very good choice here, but keep in mind it does have that Ghost typing, so if you get hit with a Bulk Up Crunch, or probably just even a Crunch in general, you are dead. So keep that in mind. For the Typhlosion, Flamethrower, either Infernal Parade or Shadow Ball, whatever your personal preference is here. It's just kind of up to you. I just stuck with Infernal Parade and it did fine. Overheat, Hyper Beam, and or Rest. Now, I don't necessarily recommend going with Rest here, because the Typhlosion doesn't have the craziest bulk in the world, so you're probably not going to get too much out of the Rest in general. So Hyper Beam is a good choice based off of its special attack stat, which is super high. So Hyper Beam is a good choice here. Flamethrower, a strong style Flamethrower should go ahead and just drop the Lucario no matter what, but you could probably do just a regular Overheat and that would kill it as well. Arcanine is going to be my second choice here. You could do a lot with it, either Flare Blitz or Raging Fury, whichever one you kind of prefer. I don't like being locked into one move. It could like kind of screw up your whole strategy here with the next Pokemon coming out and so on. So I do like Flare Blitz, even though you take that recoil damage. Rock Slide or Stone Edge, again, whichever you prefer. Rock Slide's a little bit more consistent, but Stone Edge does a lot more damage, and either one of those are going to be stab bonus, just like the fire attacks, so keep that in mind too. Play Rough, good coverage, and Iron Head, also very good coverage. A couple alternate choices for you are Infernape and Heatran. If you haven't caught a Heatran yet, then Infernape is a good alternate here, because you can actually catch an alpha one. It's like level 65, I think, and it's in the starting area. You just got to fly over to one of the islands there, and you'll be able to catch it. And it's an easy setup for you right there. You don't even have to level it up. It's already in the level range. Now that you've beaten Volo, now Giratina is going to come out, and you're going to have your 7th and 8th battle. So let's take a look at Giratina real quick. Giratina is going to be a Ghost Dragon type. The weaknesses that it's going to have are Ghost, Ice, Dragon, Dark, and Fairy. If you're using any of the Pokemon that we previously went over, you've got plenty of counters to really weaken this Giratina and wipe it out as fast as possible. Now, keeping that in mind, it does have some immunities. Because of its Ghost typing, it is going to be immune to the normal typing. It's also going to be immune to fighting and ground typing. So any of those types of attacks will not do any damage to this Pokemon. It is also going to resist Poison, Bug, Fire, Electric, Grass, and Water typing, all by 50%. So just keep that in mind as well, that it is going to take reduced damage from those. However, again, if you're using any of the Pokemon that we went over previously, you should have plenty of Ice attacks, and Dark attacks, and Ghost attacks, Fairy attacks to really hurt this Pokemon and get it out of your way. Alright, Giratina's move set is going to be Aura Sphere, which is a fighting type move, Dragon Claw, which will get a stab bonus on it, Earth Power, which is a ground type move, and Shadow Force, which is a ghost type move. And this is the move that you're going to see the Giratina use more often than anything else, probably. This is all I pretty much saw it use. Every now and then, in the couple times that I fought it and beat it on the different accounts, it used some other stuff, but for the most part, it's Shadow Force all the way, which is one of its best attacks anyways. So be weary of the Shadow Force, the Ghost type attack coming in. Put something that's going to be able to tank it and resist it so that you can have the most opportunity to beat the Giratina, especially in that first battle, so you can get to the second battle and finish that one off too. All in all, the 7th and 8th battles aren't the crazy biggest difficulty ever that there ever was. It's really going from battling 6 of Volo's Pokemon to the 7th and 8th battles that's really the issue. How many Pokemon do you have left alive? Are you healed up? Do you have the right counters to be able to send out right away against the Giratina? That's really what it comes down to, because if you have your entire team or most of your entire team, then you're probably going to be able to mow through the Giratina without any kind of issue. If you're getting out of Volo with 1 or maybe 2 Pokemon left alive, you may be set behind, and that's going to be a little hard to recover from with the heavy hitting power of the Giratina. And then to recap, just make sure you're going in with things that are at least mid-60s to mid-70s. That's kind of the level range you want to be. You can see in the video, I have things as high as level 74, but as low as 64. So there's a big spread there in level difference. Don't be afraid to use your candies. They're easy to come by, your experience candies. They're easy to come by, and just power yourself up so that you can beat this battle easily. But honestly, it's a hard battle. Maybe one of the hardest battles in Pokemon, but it's certainly beatable. If you just have the right team composition and you go in knowing what the counters are and just being prepared. That is going to be pretty much the end of this. You can see we are coming to the very end of this Giratina battle. We're going to kind of fly through it really, really fast. So feel free to continue to finish watching that so you can see what happens. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out. This was a super long video. One of my longest, if not the longest. So I appreciate everybody hanging out. And if you haven't, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel out. I certainly appreciate it. And if you do have a question on the battle or the team or anything, put it down in the comments below. I'll get back to it. And I know a bunch of people will also comment on it as well. So put it down in the comments. Otherwise, thanks again, guys. And I will see you all in the next video. But until then, take care.